live. Okay. Wow. What a week. What a day even. I mean, I'm just thinking about you could pick one of probably 20 things right now, and it would be the biggest story of the last decade. And yet we've got 20 of them happening right now. This is going to be a seismic shift for our country. Not in months and years. This is going to happen. It's happening in a matter of hours. I mean, literally, hour to hour, we're getting information that we would have just gone nuts over just a few years ago, and been obsessed about it for weeks and weeks and weeks, talking about it and how did that happen and who made that decision, and yet something like that is happening every other hour. So I'm just kind of trying to figure out exactly where to start here. I understand there's a chance the president's going to speak tonight, so if that happens, we'll jump off and everybody can certainly listen to that. And I'm just going to make sure I share this to and if you guys would do the same, even as you're watching tonight, share, because we're pretty sure this is going to be Kara got banned today, or not banned, she got locked out of her Facebook account. Heather, that runs our social media, got banned for 30 days. And we haven't been able to figure out which post or what we share. They're not telling us anything. I do not understand why my page is still live and I'm able to even do this. So maybe just God's providence, whatever. We're here, and for as long as we can. But the reason I decided to go ahead and do this tonight is that we don't know if this is going to be possible tomorrow night. It's happening that fast. I mean, look, they started with banning the president. We know exactly. The game plan was obvious. When the president put an end to Section 230, or demanded that would be in the defense bill, and vetoed it without it, and the Republicans caved and did not demand that it stay in, and they helped with the veto override. At that point, they knew that if they could end up with victory Wednesday night at some point, I guess it was early Thursday morning, and declare Joe Biden and Kamala Harris the victors, then social media, the tech giants, the big business conglomerates, they now have their folks in the White House and controlling the Senate and controlling the House. So no longer do they have to play nice. So they have been waiting for this, and then boom, the hammer dropped. So it began with banning President Trump. Now Parler is getting potentially getting kicked off of Apple, which means you can't get the app there now. You've got all kinds of other people being banned. We're seeing it obviously with our folks and our team. So this is the real deal, folks. I mean, it's happening in real time, and I don't even know. We may not even get to finish tonight's Facebook Live. So this is serious stuff. We're not just sitting around talking about what might could happen. At Patriot Academy every year, I take the students and do a kind of what if scenario, put them into a dystopian example of somehow, some way the world is essentially destroyed and there's only a few people left, and you have to design society, because I want them thinking about how would you design society if you could. And of course, every year when we do that, we end up designing a society where there is free speech, freedom of assembly, right to keep and bear arms, freedom obviously of religion, and being able to gather and worship and live according to the dictates of your conscience, due process. I mean, all the things that are in our Constitution. These young people that are 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 22 years old come up with and say, that's what we want. And then, of course, we always end that workshop saying, well, you're very blessed because you've been fortunate enough to either be born in or end up in a country that already has all of those things. I guess I don't get to do that this next summer, depending on what happens between now and our Patriot Academies next summer. Freedom of speech is dying fast. The cancel culture is costly. It destroys freedom. It completely destroys freedom. We've been warning about this for years. Our friend Brad Stein at all of our comedy and Constitution events, that's when he gets most serious, is when he talks about political correctness and the cancel culture and how that will hurt the leftist as much as it does all of us. Kara and I were just talking this afternoon about how when they blocked her on Facebook, you're thinking, don't they get it? This will happen to them as well. Now, liberals tend to understand that and realize that and push back on that, but leftists destroy everything that they're a part of. I mean, even I saw on Blaze TV that Blaze Media, the one of the models, Emily, I don't know how to say her name, that even she said, this is bad for us. This is bad for the left. She said, what happens when they start canceling us? And according to Blaze, her people went after her over that. So who knows? Anyway, this is just a very, very dangerous path that we're going down. Not unheard of in history, of course, but unfortunately, every nation where this path was taken ended up in tyranny. I mean, there's just that is the end of this rainbow, folks. So we have to figure out how to stop it. Let me tell you how not to stop it. You don't storm the Capitol and destroy the temple of our republic, basically. Don't jump on that and say it's a god. I'm just saying that is the place. That is the symbol of freedom around the world. I've given tours in that Capitol, I don't know how many times, stood in that magnificent rotunda that houses the original paintings by Jonathan Trumbull of the signers of the Declaration and the surrender at Yorktown and the victory at Saratoga and the resignation of Washington, the symbol of what was going to become the greatest republic in history, that this man would lay down that power and go home to be a farmer again and then do it again after 2 terms as president. That room is sacred. It really is in terms of freedom. And for these idiots to break windows and break down doors, to go in there thinking that they're fighting for freedom, thinking that they are taking a stand for the integrity of elections, they have handed the left exactly what they needed to advance the leftist cause in America light years. It would have taken them years to do what they have done in days at this point. So I don't know. I get it. Look, if you're watching my post, I realize that this was not just Trump supporters, that there's a lot of funky business going on here. I've watched as many videos as I can. And some sent to me by friends, not in the Capitol, but they were outside the Capitol and got some of the videos. Some, a bunch of the ones that everybody else can now get online, and I get it. I mean, my assessment of it is, and I wasn't there, I wasn't on the ground, but my assessment of it is, it was definitely a mixed crowd of anarchists that came from both the Antifa BLM left crowd, but also the extreme crazy QAnon people that latched onto the Trump campaign this summer. So, I mean, let's be honest about who was there. The dude with the bullhorns is a QAnon nut. And the guy standing next to right where the girl got shot is a BLM activist, already been arrested multiple times this summer. And when you watch his video, he is saying through the whole thing, he's encouraging people to break stuff. He's saying, let's burn this stuff down. He's saying all of those things. He even talks about, oh, don't worry, you'll just be arrested. You'll just be in jail a couple of days. But I just cannot believe what I see on those videos. And so I know it was anarchist, but then I also know there were a lot of good people caught up in it. And there were people that are just at their wits' end. They have been pushed to the brink. Every man has his limits. Every woman has their limits. And I understand that, and I get it. For nearly a year, you have been shut down, not allowed to open your business, your livelihood, your family savings, your ability to provide for your family has been taken from you by the government. So if that's you, I get it. I understand the frustration. You're watching your nation be destroyed from what it was intended to be. And so the frustration I get, and the hitting the brink I get, okay? I've been there and done things I shouldn't have done in my years here on the planet as well. And some of that stuff you can Google and or DuckDuckGo, and you'll see that I've been righteously angry but sinned. And then I've been righteously angry and not sinned. And so I understand the frenzy. I understand the getting caught up in that when you're at your wit's end, and maybe why some people might have ended up where they did. I don't understand, and I cannot relate to chanting, break it down, chanting, hang Pence, chanting these things. I hope that was only the Antifa thugs. And I hope that none of our people participated in that kind of stuff. Now, a lot of the videos I've seen, including one of the ones sent from a friend, you can see the Antifa people begin to break windows and the Trump supporters screaming, no, 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 that's wrong, no, that's terrible, don't do that, stop them. There's other videos where there's Trump people tackling what are clearly, anarchist thugs that came with crowbars and things. There's another video where guy in a cowboy hat is getting all the pipes and handing them off to the police officers and trying to get them out of the reach of the people that were going crazy. And so I think there's a lot of different players here, and there's definitely some naive that got caught up in it, but there's also folks just plain wrong. People that did support Trump. I mean, look, sin is not there's not a monopoly of sin over on the left. Okay, we have people on our side, and we're all but for the grace of God go I should be our attitude, right? But you should be appalled and disgusted to watch the windows being broken out of your Capitol, doors beat down, torn off their hinges, Capitol Police mauled by our people. This is not a BLM rally. And I think I'm being intellectually honest and consistent here, because I'm just as outraged at our people as I have been all year long at BLM and Antifa. And I don't want to hear all this whataboutism crap. What is what about it? Talk about newspeak. Talk about Orwellian 1984. I never even heard of that word until this week. You're telling me that I can't talk about the hypocrisy of how these people that gave these sanctimonious, self-righteous speeches on the Senate floor haven't said a word about the destruction and burning of our cities, including federal buildings all over the country, thousands and thousands of lives affected by that, businesses burned, thousands of lives lost. I mean, we've had 30 to 60 killed in the BLM and Antifa riots for the last 7 months, and then another 4,000 additional murders in our country last year because of the defund the police and the idiocy. And I can't compare the two. I can't say that they're not morally equivalent. One is far worse than the other, but they are both bad. That's intellectually honest. That's having a little bit of moral clarity to say what happened at the Capitol is evil and wrong. I'm disgusted by it, but there is a difference in how they are being treated. And so to not at least be honest about that, I think is crazy. So, to all of the people that were there that thought they were helping our cause, if you play, as Candace Owens says, stupid games, you get stupid prizes. And if you set foot in the Capitol, feeling the glass that was broken under your feet, you deserve prosecution. So that goes to any of my friends that did that. I don't know of any of my friends that actually went into the Capitol. But if you did, and you knew that window was broken or that door was broken, and you followed those idiots in, what were you thinking? Why were bells not going off? That this is wrong. This is evil. You don't do this. When you're watching those police officers be run over. Now I get it. There's videos where some police officers are literally opening the gates and welcoming people in. So if that was you and you went through a door that was open to you and a police officer said, "Welcome to the Capitol today. Enjoy your time," then you're innocent. And you should not be prosecuted. Unfortunately for you, you probably will be, because they're going after everybody, not only that was in the Capitol, but that was around the Capitol or even at the rally. That is coming, I'm telling you. That they're coming after everybody. So, there is a difference. I get that. So if that was you and you came, then I'm sorry, I'm not talking to you as far as you should be prosecuted. But for anybody else, if your light bulb didn't go on when you saw broken glass and didn't realize what was happening, then, man, I guess you're going to get a really, really hard life lesson. Okay, listen, I think Dennis Prager addresses all of this better than anybody. I shared his fireside chat from Thursday night and said he's probably the most rational, logical, articulate man on the planet right now. So please watch his fireside chat from Thursday. I want to try to summarize it just real quick because it is that good. Number one, as I've said, it doesn't matter if Antifa led the way. Any Trump supporters going in there poisoned the well. You've set us back. I actually said in my article on the stream that those who wrapped themselves in the flag and did damage to our Capitol like that, you have done more damage to our cause and to our nation than those who desecrated the flag for the last 7 months in the BLM riots. That's not fair. That's not just. But that's just the reality of how propaganda works. And our side is foolish to think that would not be the case, that this would not be used in the way that it's going to be used. So that's where we are now. I think this wasn't just a bunch of crazy people that got caught up in the frenzy. I think we had a failure of leadership, and I'm not talking about Donald Trump here. I think it's ridiculous to say that he incited that riot. Watch his speech. He says be peaceable. He says the same things he said for 4 years, the same things that all of us have said for the last 2 months because we know what has happened in the election. Nothing he said should have caused anybody to do anything that was violent. And most of the people that were there say the same thing. They say, I didn't feel the need to go destroy anything or be violent. Nothing in any of the speeches caused me to feel like that. So that's not what I mean by failure of leadership. What I mean by failure of leadership is that our side blew it. Where were our leaders on the ground to stop this? Where was our strategy and our tactics? I mean, we should have had some tough guys on the perimeter and making sure that Antifa could not take this over. There's no doubt that the government failed on this. The Capitol Police, I've been there many, many times. Never have I been there when this could have happened, even with a mob pushing forward like that. They would have put a stop to it the first time somebody got outside of the railing, climbed up the side of anything, pushed up. I mean, it would have been stopped. And when you watch the videos, a lot of those Capitol Police are standing there like deer caught in the headlights, as if they have been told. The only thing I can figure is it's running through their mind. Have they been told, kid gloves, we don't, no matter what, anytime we have a riot, look what's happened the last 7 months. We're going to treat rioters sweet and special and let them do whatever they want. Let's not forget, again, for those of you who might have got caught up in this, I understand the psychology of the last 7 months too. We have been conditioned as a nation to believe that rioting is okay, that it is a proper way to air your grievance. That's what the mayor of Minneapolis said the night they burned the police precinct, and he gave it to them. And it set this fire across our country. And I'm actually shocked that this is the first time that people on the right have gotten caught up in it. It's been all the left for the last 7 months. And how many cities have burned, and how many times have they done it? And very little has been done to them. Very few have been arrested. Now they're going after everyone that was anywhere near the Capitol on Wednesday. And they're going to prosecute them, which the ones that broke things and did that, they should be prosecuted. But my Lord, where was all of that for the last 7 months? So we've conditioned people psychologically to think this is how you air your grievance. We have shut them off in the courts, shut them off in the legislatures, and shut them off in Congress. And so we have sent this depraved signal that the only way you will be heard is through brute force. That is not America. We have never rewarded that kind of behavior. We have only rewarded peaceful protests. That's why MLK and A.D. King changed the world with their peaceful protests. That's what got our attention as a culture and made us change our hearts and minds and our laws and became a better nation as a result of it. We've never rewarded this kind of stuff. So anyway, our people should have been there on the ground, ready to stop Antifa, and obviously the government failed here as well, and whoever made those calls, and was it a conspiracy? I don't know. Did somebody in Capitol Police or at those levels? I mean, I love how Nancy Pelosi's wringing her hands about how this happened, and Joe Biden and Kamala Harris saying this would, if they had been Black Lives Matter, far worse would have. They're in charge. Nancy Pelosi is in charge. She chooses who the sergeant at arms is going to be for the House. And I know they fired him now, but I mean, are we going to blame leadership or not? Anyway, okay. I think one of the lessons we can learn is that our side has no clue how to fight this war we're in. We are absolutely out of our depth. They're fighting a guerrilla war, and we're playing high school debate. We're not prepared for what is in front of us. 7 months of watching it, and we weren't prepared for this. I don't even know. I don't know who to blame for that. I mean, yeah, I'm sure somebody's going to say Donald Trump because he's the leader. Well, yeah, but also if you brought a busload of folks from your church, then probably should have been thinking about this kind of thing too, right? All of us should have been thinking about this kind of thing. So I don't know who you blame for that, but Trump campaign, organizers of the rally, obviously the mayor of D.C. because she refused. Actually, the media, of course, is lying. We know that. They've done that for a year. That's why we're still in COVID fascism, because they're not going to say the truth. The truth is they're saying that the Pentagon, because Trump wouldn't have wanted them there, the Pentagon refused help. Capitol Police asked for help. The opposite happened. The Pentagon offered help ahead of time, and the Capitol Police refused. But you know that's not going to come out. But so that's our side is not prepared to fight this war, so we've got to get prepared fast. We have got to understand psychological warfare. We've got to understand propaganda. We've got to understand not playing into their hands, doing exactly what we did Wednesday. We gave them all of the ammunition they need to crack down on anybody that calls themselves a patriot. Twitter's already done it. They have listed in their reasons for banning Donald Trump that he referred to us as American patriots. That phrase, using the phrase American patriots, is now going to be considered siding with domestic terrorism. Well, I guess I have to change the name of my nonprofit from Patriot Academy now because somehow that's... Are you kidding me? That's where they're going with this. But we did it. Our side gave them that ammunition. One other thing I was thinking about as I'm coming down so hard on our people here before I get to the rest of this is I also understand the cost of us not being in church for the last year, not having fellowship, not having worship, not having in-person preaching and conviction and forgiveness and all of those things that come with the wonderful body of Christ. And I mean, even this afternoon, as I was trying to just take a mental break and trying to just remove myself from all this stuff for a little bit, and I was listening to some worship music and just walking around and just listening to that worship music. I mean, it just is emotional because I realized what a balming effect the fellowship of believers is, and what a balming effect worship is when you come together and you're able to do that on a weekly basis. And when you're not able to do that, and that doesn't happen for a year, it puts us on edge. It makes it easier to sin. I mean, that's just the reality of it. It makes, that when you forsake the fellowship, when you're out of prayer, when you're not in God's word, it's easier to fall into sin, whatever it is, right? And certainly anger is one of those things. And so my guess is there's a lot of people tonight that were there and either participated at some level or perhaps even did some of the criminal behavior and violent behavior, and they regret it. And they realize now they got caught up in it. And so to them I say, forgiveness is wonderful. and God's grace is amazing. And we all screw up. I am chief sinner among us when it comes to that sort of thing. So don't think you've got to hide from it and that you have done something that keeps you from ever being involved in your political realm and government again. Not at all. In fact, I'm going to ask anybody that was part of that to, instead of being checking out of the process, to actually make right for anything you did that was wrong. And then at the same time, if you weren't part of what was wrong, double up your efforts. If you were, then make right and then get back in the fight and say, I'm going to do better. And I'm going to fight the right way. I'm going to fight righteously and effectively. I mean, strategically. This was not strategic. It was strategic for the left. I mean, they were brilliant in what they did. I mean, this played right into their game plan and will hurt us for a very, very long time. Now let me make Prager's second point, and that is that a movement should not be judged by the actions of a few, but should be judged by the response of the leadership. And I don't know of a single conservative leader or activist that has not come out and said destruction of the Capitol was wrong, mob mentality and mob action is always wrong. We've all done that, right? And so for all of you never Trumpers out there that have been smart aleck about, why aren't you condemning this? Like we have been. And I think it speaks volumes about our movement. Every single Republican leader has condemned this. I have even shared videos of the guilty from our side, folks that were Trump people from Texas, and said, look, it's us. It's not just them, it's us too. So, we've done that. Okay, so that speaks more about our movement than even the actions of the few where this took place. What speaks more about their movement is the fact that you can't find anybody on the left that has condemned the thousands, the things that were 1,000 times worse than what happened at the Capitol. And so, I just don't think we need to judge the whole movement on this, and not judge Donald. I'm just not on board with this idea that Donald Trump caused this. It's absolutely not true. I've given speeches just like what he gave. Does that mean that of course not. I mean, this is propaganda. They're using it because they want to destroy him. They want to destroy you. He represents the movement that we're a part of, and so they see an opportunity here. This is the don't let a crisis go to waste thing. This is they know how to move the ball down the field. They know how to take advantage of an opening in the other side's defense, and we've given them a huge opening. And so they're gonna play this to the hilt. The third thing that Dennis Prager made a point of that I think is so important is that in a free society, in a constitutional republic, it is the free speech and the peaceful resolution through the courts and the legislature that makes the system work. Thanks, bud. I was getting cold. I was like, give me some more heat over here. Even as hot as I am right now, I'm not hot enough. Anyway, he was just basically making the same point I've made on social media since this happened and others. But he was so good at it. So watch that fireside chat. But the point is, when you remove the peaceful resolution, when you remove free speech and the opportunity to debate and vent and talk about what you believe and either have your mind changed or at least know that you had your say, or you had your day in court or your day in Congress, to at least know you were able to participate in the process. Shutting that down and not allowing for that closes that pressure valve relief, that relief valve, so that the pressure can be released. And all of these unlawful orders for a year, and the forced to be at home, and the shutdowns combined with not even be allowed to speak out against it, you're asking for this kind of violence. That's not to condone it, condemn it. Certainly not. I mean, not to condone it or encourage it. It is to condemn it and to condemn what leads up to it, and to say you can't just take the moment. You got to go before that. I mean, frankly, that's exactly what the left has been saying for the last 7 months. Is this is the expression of those who have no voice and all of that. And there's a kernel of truth in that, but that expression should still be peaceful. And that's what MLK knew that Malcolm X refused to agree to, and that's why their types of expression were very different. And MLK's is the one that really worked. So anyway, we need the peaceful opportunity to speak. And so I think the clamping down by social media, the attempts in Congress right now to silence their colleagues, to say that Josh Hawley and Ted Cruz have committed treason and sedition because they objected to electors from states that they believed, as I believe, and most of you believe, were cast illegally and unconstitutionally. To say that their objection following the 1887 law, exactly as Democrats have done for the last 3 presidents, and Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, Nancy Pelosi, all applauded and participated in all that nonsense, because it wasn't even going to make a difference in the election. It was, very minute compared to what we're dealing with now, but a lot of the same arguments, irregularities here, irregularities there, and it was okay for them to point that out. Well, let them have their day in Congress. Let them have their opportunity to point that out. We've never said that they shouldn't be able to do that, but now we do the exact same thing. And Josh Hawley gets his book canceled over it from Simon & Schuster. Ted Cruz gets accused of treason and sedition. CNN and all of these outlets are making these guys out to be Joe Biden compared them to Hitler, people. Called them Nazis. Essentially, in the comparison of what he was saying, he was using some very specific language. It's just all because they were using the Constitution. Now, I think it feels like, the lies about what Trump actually said or did and what Josh Hawley and Ted Cruz did, it's like Soviet propaganda. It's the same game plan. And that's what we're seeing right now in what they're doing. And the only way to defeat that is you have to seek truth. You can't be lazy about this. You've got to become someone that searches out good resources, and we're going to have to start getting really organized and have the outlets where we can get information. I mean, this is literally like being in a war where just a focus on communications and propaganda and all those things are vital. Just to be able to have debate, just to be able to discuss these things. That's what we have now found ourselves in. Something I was going to say about Hawley and Cruz and the whole I don't even remember, but I know what it was. The fact that we don't know how to fight this fight. Our side is so inept at this right now, and this business of playing high school debater instead of realizing that we're in trench warfare. Look, the ability to say these things about Josh Hawley and Ted Cruz, just as the idiots that stormed the Capitol have given the left everything they need to label all patriots as an unruly mob, just as that has happened, in the same way the members of Congress who said that it was unconstitutional and a threat to our entire republic and the way we elect presidents to even object to electors, those people are the ones that equipped the other side now and opened the door and gave them cover to accuse Hawley and Cruz and the others of sedition. And see, we don't know how to fight this fight. So all of those good folks in Congress that thought they were taking a principled stand to not object, and by the way, just a side note, just let's think forward to a constitutional amendment that will solve this problem. Does anybody really think that you should never, ever, ever be able to object to a set of electors sent to D.C. by a state? Because that's the argument that Chip Roy and Tom Cotton and Mike Lee and Dan Crenshaw, I mean, these are guys I love, but that's the argument they made. They're literally saying, think about what they're saying. If a state was taken over by a military coup and a guy and somebody names himself governor, and he selects the electors and he signs it as governor and sends that to Washington, D.C. and says, here's where our 20 electors are going, that Congress could not object to that. Is there a single person out there that thinks that that's okay? But that is absolutely the position that they took. So that you cannot say that we could never object to electors. The electors have to be done constitutionally. To think that the founders would have allowed for unconstitutional electors to skew the election for a president and not give Congress the opportunity to write that and fix that just doesn't make any sense to me. So I'm hoping to have some very calm, good old-fashioned, rational debate and discussion with my friends in Congress that took that position, because we do need a constitutional amendment on this. And it would follow most of the 1887 law. I'm okay with most of how this plays out, but it needs to be in the Constitution, not in the 1887 law, so that everybody understands this is how that system is going to work. So anyway, I use those two examples to say we don't know how to fight this fight. And we are equipping the left. We're handing them all the ammunition they need to defeat our team. So we've got to start thinking more strategically. So back to Prager's fireside chat. So, number one, good people got caught up in this, and we realized that it was a mix of Antifa, but it doesn't matter if Antifa in there. That doesn't excuse at all the fact that there were a ton of Trump people involved in this as well. And then we have our fringe. We have crazies on our side, just like they have crazies on their side. The difference is, I think, 80% of theirs are crazies, and we got like this little 0.0001% that makes us look bad. But that's, and I can back that up statistically, by the way. This is the first time you've ever seen this from our side in my lifetime. We've been doing Tea Party rallies and massive rallies all over the country. Tea Party rallies since 2009, other rallies and things for 20, 25 years. We have never done this. Never, ever. We don't even leave trash behind. We talk nice to folks on the other side. I mean, this is definitely, the ones that participated in it are the fringe and those who literally just reached their boiling point. I mean, everybody's got their limit. So last thing that Prager said, he talked about the pressure valve of free speech and being able to have a peaceful resolution. And then I hearkened back to an article that he wrote just October I think it was, where he said that America is drowning in the lies of the left. And I think that's true. I think it's killing us. We bought it hook, line, and sinker. The Marxism taught in our schools for all these years has brainwashed enough people, and now the media is parroting this stuff, and so the lies have become truth, and we now have parallel universes. And so, he made that point that it feels like when you watch CNN or you listen to these Senate speeches from the left, it feels like Soviet propaganda. I mean, he's the one that said that, and I think that's true. Last thing he said was, and he said this a few times, is that, look, if you think the candidate is Hitler, if you think he's a racist, evil man that doesn't care and will take life and all of those things, then you would cheat to win, just like Bonhoeffer was willing to assassinate Hitler, right? And so he said, I get it, these people were lied to, so why would we not investigate? If these people were so ginned up that they decided to cheat, I mean, we should believe that's possible. I believe that's possible. They really thought Trump was that evil and still believe that, and so obviously people would be willing to cheat in that scenario. So if you give them the chance by sending home the other side with a fake pipe burst so that nobody's there to watch them, what should we assume probably happened? So there should at least be an investigation, and I think we've lost that now. We may have some cursory investigations from the states at this point, but obviously the team that cheated won. I mean, let's just face it, they have won. The people that broke the law won. Now, what do we do about it? We don't use violence. We don't tear down the system. We say we got outmaneuvered. They beat the system. We're going to fix the system and prevent that from happening again. And that takes us back to the states. That's where we have to have our fights at the state level. And so we've got to start getting prepared to fight those fights. The purge is on, man. I'm telling you, the great silencing has begun. So in just the last few hours, Kara's been locked out of her Facebook account. Our social media gal, Heather, has been completely banned for 30 days. I'll probably get banned after this Facebook Live finishes. They don't usually watch them until after they're done, so we'll see. I'm already in jail, so we can't promote it. So please share this. It might help get me banned. Maybe you shouldn't share. No, please share, because we need to get this out to as many people as possible. And then do me a favor and get on Parler. I'm Constitution Coach at Parler, so it's at Constitution Coach on Parler. On MeWe, same thing. You search for Constitution Coach or for Rick Green or Patriot Rick Green. And then most importantly, get on our email list. That may be our only way of communicating with you literally within a few days if they shut down all these things. So make sure you're on our email list. You can do that at patriotacademy.com. Just scroll down to the bottom and fill in your email, and that way we can communicate with you that way. Okay, there's going to be a lot of pain coming. Just telling you, if you were there even at the rally, they're probably going to try to shut you down. There's people getting fired already. I've already read about people that did not even go to the Capitol part, definitely didn't go inside the Capitol, and they've lost their jobs. So there's some people that should probably lose their jobs, and others though are going to be part of it. And so let's not play into their hands anymore. Okay, let's not be the mob anymore, and let's get some better strategy and tactics on the part of our leaders in Washington, D.C. that we know share our values, but I think made some real strategic errors in how they handled things on Wednesday. And by the way, just quick recap on what happened Wednesday, because last we had a Facebook Live, or Front Porch Live was prior to them getting back together. And so they did come back together. They did go ahead and hear objections to Pennsylvania. They did not. The senators backed out on Michigan and Wisconsin, and Georgia, but they did have in the House some debate on Pennsylvania. The Senate didn't even debate; they just went ahead and voted, and 7 of them voted to reject, and 93 voted to accept. So it was over at that point, and I know a lot of people are very angry with Mike Pence. And, I'm one of the ones that said he had the constitutional and historical authority to reject or accept himself. I still believe that. As I said before, that's one of many options that he had. And as I said in writing and publicly, the best option and what should happen is that he would just put him on hold and ask for clarification from the states. And here's what's really bad. Thank you, mob. We were on our way to that. We were getting close to having a decertification in Wisconsin and Michigan and some of these other places. And it all got derailed, and I don't know what Pence was going to do when they came back together from the first debate on Arizona. That we never got a chance to find out what he would have done had the violence not occurred. So let me address the whole impeachment thing. Look, yes, if you have a leader that encourages rioting and violence, I absolutely think they should be impeached. And so I'm expecting the articles of impeachment on Monday for Kamala Harris to be filed by somebody. I mean, if that's going to be the standard. She egged on the rioters. She said they should keep rioting and that they should not stop. And she helped raise money to bail out the rioters. Trump hasn't done that I'm aware of. So if anybody needs to be impeached here, it needs to be Kamala Harris. I think we've got a little bit of a misguided righteous anger over people inciting riots. We're going after the wrong people, but of course we realize that. We know that. We expect that from them. They first floated the 25th Amendment. Real quick, 25th Amendment, Section 3 is where the president himself or herself invokes the 25th because they're going to go under for surgery or whatever it might be. It's been done 3 times. Reagan did it once. Bush 43 did it twice. Section 4 of the 25th Amendment has never been invoked. This is what Nancy Pelosi was trying to get everybody to get on board with on Friday. Section 4 requires the vice president to initiate with half the cabinet, so he's got to have 50% of the cabinet, and then the president can respond and say, no, I'm not incapable of fulfilling my duties. And then the vice president and the cabinet would have to again say, no, we think he's incapable. That would all go to the House and the Senate, and it'd have to be a 2/3 vote in both the House and the Senate. So this is like not just a bar above impeachment. This is massively harder than impeachment. And because it was never intended to be over political differences. They made that clear when they passed the 25th Amendment in the 60s, early 60s. It was in response to Eisenhower had a heart attack and some other illnesses. We had, back Garfield, 80 days before he died after he'd been shot. So, I mean, you had situations like that where the president either could not do the job or they were worried that he might not be able to do the job if he gets any worse. And that's what led to the 25th Amendment being adopted, proposed by Congress and then ratified. And that would be a total abuse of the 25th Amendment to impeach someone over a policy difference or even over, claiming that he incited a riot, and you're going to invoke the 25th over that doesn't even make sense. Impeachment would be the proper tool, which is why we need to do it with Kamala Harris. Anyway, Mike Pence is never going to do that. He said he wasn't. Part of the reason I've defended him and his decision to do it the way he did on Wednesday is that he has been incredibly loyal. He's been incredibly effective as a vice president. So everybody stop with this. Stop with this throwing Mike Pence, not just throwing him under the bus. I cannot believe people are actually saying hang Pence. They're crazy. They're crazy. They're nuts. Okay, so that's impeachment. Yes, that could happen. They're gonna file the articles on Monday. The Senate, the resolution that they passed, I watched every single speech. That was painful. Believe me, my barf bags were full. But I watched every speech, and then I watched at the end when they did their resolution. And the resolution says they can only come together. I think it's the 12th and 17th maybe, and can't take up any business. And then the 19th is the first day they could actually take up any business in the Senate. So let's say hypothetically that Nancy Pelosi, in her tirade to try to bring the nation together by impeaching the president who just got 75 million votes, her idea of unity and Joe Biden's idea of unity is to impeach him and hopefully convict him, because if they convict him and they add in there's a part in the Constitution that allows you to ban someone from running for or serving in office again. That's what they want. They want to prevent him from running in 2024. They want to totally taint the record. They want the history books, all that. So they may rush through the articles of impeachment on Monday. They may go. They only need a majority vote in the House, and then they'll send it over to the Senate. And based on the rules of the Senate, it's just going to sit there until they come back together on the 19th. Now, could they then go ahead and have a hearing and John Roberts come over as Chief Justice, and they're like deja vu all over again? Here we go again. It's just like last year. I know it's deja vu all over. That's Yogi Berra. I can't baseball. Anyway, so if they do that, though, it would probably, even Mitch McConnell says, that would probably carry over past the actual inauguration. And I don't know the answer to that question. I need to do a little homework. I guess you can impeach someone that's no longer. I don't know that you can impeach someone that's no longer in office. It's certainly never been done that I'm aware of. So I'll do a little homework on that and let you know next time.
That would truly show you how much they hate.
That truly would show you how it would all be about preventing him from ever running for office again. And that's what they're afraid of. They are scared to death of Trump. They're scared to death of you. They're afraid of our movement. Because on November 3rd, we won. Not only did we win the presidential race, we won congressional races we weren't supposed to win, Senate races we weren't supposed to win, hundreds of legislative races around the country, took over additional state legislative bodies. Folks, 2020 was victory all over the place for our side. Don't forget that. If you're ducking your head and you're packing up and you're ready to move off and go live on an island somewhere and give up on America, you're focused on this moment. You need to step back and look at all of 2020. Look at all of the election process. We rejected wokeism. We rejected all the COVID crackdowns at the ballot box. It's going to take time for that to be reflected. It's going to take another 2 years before we actually take Congress, but we got that close. And we'll take it back in 2022, and we'll. Are we not?
No, you're good. I just had a question to throw out there that some people might be thinking.
Go ahead.
You were just talking about all the victories we had. So with all those, how did we still end up losing?
Yeah, so the other side was very tactical, man. They picked their fights. They thought they were going to sweep it all the way. They were prepared for this. They filed hundreds of lawsuits more than a year ago, started to change the election law to help their side. So, like I said, we are not prepared for this fight. We are still playing high school debate while they are scratching and clawing in the trenches, and they're kicking our tail on the actual results, right? We're winning. We were until Wednesday. I'm praying that we're going to get past that, but we were winning the American people, and I think we'll get back there. I think we will. It's going to take some hard work, and I can't do this without saying, look, the real solution is what we've always said. It's a biblical perspective influencing this process. If you think as a pastor or a Christian, after seeing what you saw on Wednesday, that this system is so dirty you don't want anything to do with it, then you have missed the entire Great Commission. Because the whole purpose here is to make disciples and to teach people how to obey his commands. So if anything, if you're appalled by what you saw Wednesday, if anything, it should make you want to be salt and light more. The system needs you more than ever before. And it is the lack of religion. It's the lack of morality that is allowing us to see our nation look like the French Revolution. I as I watch those videos and I listen to people that, even though many of them were screaming things that were liberty-minded things, like we're tired of the taxes and we're tired of the regulations or whatever, in between the F words and between the hate and between the breaking the windows, they're saying these things. So what does that tell you? We're trying to have liberty in a French Revolution way without morality. The difference between us and the French, we built our system on liberty from God, therefore we must live that liberty respecting his authority and his system. His best blessings are found within his boundaries, living the way he designed us to live. The French said, we don't want any of that. We want libertas, we want liberty with no boundaries. And so they removed religion, removed morality. And it led to what we're seeing right now. Now, we don't have the guillotine out yet, but that's what it led to. So, friends, if you want to save America, if you want to be one nation under God again, we've got to become people under God again. We got to get back in God's word. We got to start looking at how am I supposed to live? How am I supposed to treat my neighbor? And then we got to get more involved in our government and be salt and light. Bring those biblical principles in. That's why we're doing biblical citizenship in modern America. Monday night, you can join us. The first class will be online. Go to, where do people go to sign up? Does anybody know?
No, ConstitutionCoach.com.
ConstitutionCoach.com. Go to ConstitutionCoach.com. And if any of my folks out there have the link, there's actually a registration page for the class. And I can look it up in a minute. But if any of my team is out there and watching, could you share that in the chat very quickly? Because I'm not being, this is the answer, folks. You've got to know what to do. You got to be the men of Issachar. We have to understand the times and know what to do. So this class is not going to be about, just holding hands and praying. And granted, we need to do that. This is going to be about what John Hancock said. I urge you by all that is honorable, by all that is sacred, by all that is dear, not only to pray, but to act. So yes, we're going to pray, but we're going to learn how to act in a biblical way, and that's how we'll bring our nation back. That's how the King family changed the world. That's how they won the civil rights movement, because they did it with peace, and they did it biblically. And that's what we're going to do. If you want to be a part of that, then you're at the right place. And it's not going to be easy, and it's going to take a long time. This is not going to happen in a year or two, and it may not even happen in your lifetime. So duty is ours, results are God's. It's time to get a John Quincy Adams attitude and say, I'm going to get up every day, and I'm going to be involved in this. I'm going to do my duty every single day, even if I don't get to live to see it, even if I don't get to sit under the trees of liberty that I am planting the seeds for right now. You may not get to enjoy that shade, but our children and grandchildren will. So that's why we're in this fight, and that's the way we have to fight. Okay, I have gone long, and it's time for questions.
Question. What can people do right now, starting tomorrow, do the Constitution Pledge stuff and get that, but like with their county? Can they contact their
Okay,
judge?
let me before we go county, let me say this, okay? I don't care if you're for a convention of states or against a convention of states. Go to conventionofstates.com and get on their email list. You can be hopefully I'll win you over on this at some point. But and by the way, that's the only way we're going to save the nation is if we can get the power back from the federal government and let each state do what they want to do for the most part and just agree on the Bill of Rights, but then let each state, let California be goofy if it wants to be goofy, let Texas be Texas. That's not going to happen without a convention of states. So hopefully you're for it, but even if you're not, get on the email list because Mark Meckler and the team over there is going to be, they're going to be ground zero for the battles in the state legislatures for tightening up the election laws, dealing with the emergency powers, and stripping these governors of being able to be dictators and all of that. And then, of course, calling for the Convention of States. Frankly, the Convention of States is more important than ever at this point. And I think a lot of people are going to realize that after this. They realize how split the nation is and that we've got to bring the power back from the Fed. Stop trying to make everyone the same. That's a communist idea, to try to make everybody lockstep, walk the same. We're not like that. We believe in freedom. We believe in diversity. We believe in, hey, you live your way, I'll live my way. As long as we agree on these basic things, due process, freedom of speech, right to keep and bear arms, freedom of religion. I mean, these are the basics. If we can agree on those, and that's national. But statewide, man, we're going to have to let these states decide. That won't happen without a convention of states. But even if you're against that, go to conventionofstates.com, get signed up, because action in the legislature starts right now. I mean, almost every state is going to be meeting within another week. Some of them have already started this week. Most of them will be starting next week. And now's the time to push for election integrity. All of this presidential stuff that we've been talking about is done at the state level initially. If you solve it at the state level, if the state legislators had done their job and solved this problem before the election or come back together immediately after the election, then Donald Trump would be president right now. I mean, let's just be blunt about it. If they had the ability, they had the constitutional power, they could have done it. All right? I get it. For the same reason Mike Pence didn't use what was a historical and constitutional possibility for him, in the same way some of these state legislatures said we can't meet because the governor hadn't called us in, and they never, ever had called themselves into session before, and we were making the argument the Constitution gives them a plenary power to choose how the electors are chosen, therefore it gives them the power to come together and meet. But that had never been done, so I get it. That's a little bit of aggressive, and some of them weren't willing to be that aggressive, which I think at this time in our nation's difficulties, it's a time to be aggressive. But at any rate, they are meeting now. So now they can fix those election problems. Now they can tighten up the election integrity. So your voice at the state legislative level, wherever you live, is critical right now. Call your state rep. Call your senator. Get the election integrity list that Daniel Horowitz has put out on the Blaze of the things that we need to be asking for. Me personally, it's always been about transparency, verification, and legal remedies whenever people cheat, whenever they break the law. Okay? So transparency, make sure that we have rock-solid ability to watch the vote, watch the counting. Verification, make sure there is a recount process where everybody gets to look at every single ballot, and to do that, you have to have paper ballot. Got to get rid of these systems that don't have a paper ballot. And then legal remedies, make sure that you have some sort of appellate process for dealing with the cheating that's taking place all over the place. It's happening in Texas, folks. We have massive fraud going on in Harris County. And thanks to Dr. Hotze and the others that raised the money there to use private investigators to stop a lot of it. We didn't stop all of it. We stopped some of it. But that's a battle in every state. Okay, so that's the state level. And then on the county level, and I'm so sorry, I still don't have paperwork to send you. Obviously, it's been a crazy week, and I haven't been able to put the time into that. But go read Daniel Horowitz. Go on theblaze.com and search for his name and read his articles from the last few weeks. And he lays out everything that we're talking about doing here. And so he and I and others are working on that, and we're eventually going to have a declaration that the county commissioners and city councils can adopt. Start thinking about running for local office. Deadline in Texas is February 12th to file for the May elections, and those are the city councils, school boards, water districts, all those local offices. Won't be county commissioner, but it'll be these other ones. And then start thinking about in the 2022 election, which the primary will be in March of 2022. So the campaigns will really be kicking off here in just 3 or 4 months. Maybe you need to run for sheriff. That's going to be the most important office in these counties where we try to have sanctuary counties. Maybe you need to run for the legislature, or whatever it might be. We've got our campaign coach program coming out in just a week or two, probably 2. Think 2? Yeah, shall I be safe? Raz and Luke aren't here to make me behave. So, yeah, probably 2 weeks. And that will help you, believe me, help you make the decision of whether you want to run and help you in a big way in terms of running. Yeah.
Kevin asked about your hat. He noticed you had a different one on, so you want to let him know where they can get
That's got to be Kevin Lowe if he noticed that distinction. Was it Kevin?
I don't think so.
Different Kevin?
Different Kevin.
Well, here's the so this is a different one. My other one's got kind of a bright blue, metallic blue. All of them are at defender-gear.com. Can you put that in? Somebody type that in, defender-gear.com. And if you use our coupon code, Patriot1776, that's still a great word, Patriot. Don't you let them take that away from us. I'm not giving it up. They done stole the rainbow. We ain't giving this one up. We're not giving up Patriot, okay? Patriot1776 is the coupon code at defender-gear.com, so you can get 10% off these hats. So we've got this one that's a little it's kind of almost like a yellow, but it's really, you just can't even see the color. And then we got the blue one, but we got a really cool red Patriot Academy one coming out here in a few weeks. That one's not going to be here for like 5 weeks, so go ahead and get you one of these for now, or the blue one. Throw me your hat, and I'll show them that one too. Here's another option. It's got the Defender Gear logo on the front, and then the flag on the side, and a kind of a camo design. So that's another nice one. They got a lot of great options on there. Shirts too. I don't have one of those on right now, but a lot of cool shirts and hoodies. Rhett's got some hoodies at his TikTok page. If you want to go to his TikTok page and get one of his. Okay, questions.
It was asked if there's cigar smoke going across the screen.
Yes. It's not mine, unfortunately, but no. Listen, guys, I know right now some people really hate it when we laugh and still have the ability to have joy in the darkest of days. And I don't perfume it up, man. I said in my in my social media immediately that Wednesday was the greatest victory for the left in America's history. Not Joe Biden becoming president. It was all the process. It was the mob. It was the propaganda. It was all those things. It was the greatest defeat for us as Constitution lovers, as rule of law lovers. Greatest defeat, and I'll be right back. I know you can hear me but not see me right now. It was the greatest defeat for us in my lifetime for sure. So. So we are very serious. We realize what's coming. We realize what's at stake. We are the resistance at this point. You can expect some really bad things coming from Washington, D.C. in the next 2 years. It's going to be ugly. But we knew that in 2009 as well, right? I mean, that's how they got Obamacare. They had all three for a while. And so at this point, you just better be ready. And it's why the sanctuary counties are even that much more important. It's why lobbying those legislatures is so important. And what you'll find as you lobby the legislature this next few months, you're going to find out who the champions are, and you're going to find out who the weak need are. You're going to find out who the ones are that we need a primary next year. So get ready for that too.
Can you address the unlikelihood of the Insurrection Act and foreign interference being used to stop a lot of this? Or is it not being a silver bullet?
Yeah, so I know a lot of people, and I never advocated this. I never said this was even in the realm of possibility, but a lot of other people did. The whole idea that Trump could have declared martial law and seized the voting machines and used the Insurrection Act and all of that, I just think that's pie in the sky. There was no way that was going to happen. There wasn't. First of all, you saw on Wednesday there wasn't enough support among Republicans on this for him to be able to do that. I understand he had the raw power to do it, And possibly, it might have been, the cabinet might have invoked the 25th at this point. It might have been season 2 of 24 at that point, where the vice president and the president definitely disagreed on the need to go to war, and they invoked the 25th. So I don't think I don't think that ever made sense. And again, we're talking about trying to use these extreme measures when we had very non-extreme measures available to us. And so if the Republicans in the 4 states that could have done this weren't willing to do it at the local level, at the state level, where they clearly had constitutional power to do it, if you're President Trump, you have to be sitting back going, well, if the ones on the ground weren't willing to do the right thing, if I do this from here, who's going to back me up on it? Probably nobody. And so at that point, you gotta weigh what is possible, not I guess what is smart, what is strategic. So I think he was right to not do that. And I think that was always a crazy idea. As was the idea to tell people in Georgia not to go vote. That was foolish.
What do you see for 2024?
What do I see for 2024? Well, like I said on Reagan's podcast last night when we recorded for all of the Rocky fans out there, I'll do my best Clubber Lang. Pain. It wasn't a very good Clubber Lang. I see pain for us for the next 4 years with regard to policy in our country, with regard to the crackdown, with regard to the lack of free speech. The COVID crackdowns will probably could last more than another year if they have their way. The vaccine mandates that are coming, the inability to travel or to participate in things if you don't have the gold star on your chest. That's literally what we're talking about here. It's similar. In fact, I saw a meme the other day had a person wearing a red mask, person wearing a blue mask, and it said, if you have the vaccine, you'll be wearing blue. If you don't, you have to wear red. And that was the tweet, was just add a gold star to it, and we'll be right back to 1930s Germany. So anyway, I think it's going to be painful for the next 4 years. I think your question might be, who do I think is going to run in 2024? Is that what the question you think that's what they mean?
Just generally, yeah.
Well, we know probably with a 99% certainty whoever runs on the Republican side will be running against Kamala Harris, not Joe Biden. There is no way he makes it 4 years cognitively. They will invoke the 25th, or he will just resign, and Kamala Harris is going to be president. Everybody needs to just hear that. You need to stomach it. I have a hard time with it. I get it. It's disgusting. It is embarrassing. It is judgment. It is judgment on our country. I hope we get that. I hope we understand Wednesday was judgment on our country. I think what we're seeing is God's hand being removed, and we that's why the biblical part is the most important. If we want God's blessing again, we got to do it His way. So we're experiencing judgment. Listen, in terms of politically who could run in 2024, I think Kristi Noem has already shown herself to be the type of Republican leader that we need. She has had the backbone of Donald Trump, but much better speaking ability and more. She's been incredibly effective in South Dakota. And even in the last few days, a great article on the Federalist. Go to thefederalist.com and read the article by Kristi Noem. It actually comes from a speech, but she lays it out. She says the Republicans failed. We failed the nation this year, and it's time for us to stop giving lip service to ending the regulations and ending the debt. She goes through the whole. I think basically her article is like a Declaration of Independence. It's literally saying, here's the philosophy of what the Republican Party needs to be if we want to win the nation back. It's not the strategy and tactics. It's not here's how we're going to do it, but it's a fantastic philosophy of government and what Republicans used to stand for. And part of the anger that was expressed on Wednesday, it wasn't just at Democrats, it was at Republicans who have had the chance to end the COVID crackdowns, had the chance to end Obamacare, had the chance to stop the debt spending, to stop all of the micromanaging of Americans' lives and all the things that has been coming out of D.C. Republicans have had the chance to do that, and they failed. So that's what she's saying, is we can't go out there saying, just anti-Biden, anti-Harris, anti-Democrats. We have to say, what are we for? I think she says it very well in that article. So I personally think Kristi Noem and Ron DeSantis are our best hope for a Republican Party that can not just win, but that can bring us back. And restore the Constitution. They've shown it, and I my respect for Ron DeSantis went through the roof when he quickly admitted he was wrong on the shutdowns and reversed course. That takes guts. That takes integrity. It takes humility. That is literally servant leadership, because he's basically saying, I care more about the people of my state who are being hurt by the decision that I made than I care about proving that I was right, which is what every other governor has done. Why do you think Greg Abbott and all these other governors have continued this madness? It's all pride. They cannot admit that they got it wrong, because then they have to admit that all the lives that were lost to suicide and addiction and all the businesses that were lost and the finances and everything was their fault, right? So they're not going to be willing to do that. I don't know that they'll ever do that. He fortunately did it fast enough that he stopped the bleeding very quickly, and Florida is essentially free right now. I haven't been since this happened, but my friends there they love sending me pictures of all of them at dinner with no mask, and going in public with no mask, and in the store and very few people wearing. I mean, it must be nice to live in freedom. So they're opening back up, have been opened up, and set a good example. And Ron, I think, has been fantastic. So that's the only two I can think of for. I know they're going to throw Nikki Haley at us and some others. I just don't see. I see them being the establishment candidates. There's a war coming in the Republican Party. My hope is that Kristi Noem and Ron DeSantis lead the freedom side, and that Larry Hogan and that crowd that is basically like the Democrats. I mean, Larry Hogan's been as bad on masks and everything else as anybody, and he's been a never-Trumper, an anti-Trumper the whole time. So he's against all the victories that we've had for the last 4 years. So that crowd in the Republican Party is already going to be using this mob violence and all that happened on Wednesday to say, this is why we need to go back to a kinder, gentler, all that stuff. So get ready for that battle in the Republican Party. But I think that'll be waged in 2022 as much as in 2024. I mean, obviously the presidential race is the one everybody really gets focused in. But you watch in these congressional races and watch the rhetoric and the debate that's going to take place, and who the think tanks and the big PACs line up behind, and it's going to be interesting. Yeah, what were you about to say? Yeah.
Well, you kind of touched on it a little bit, but what a lot of people are wondering right now is what the Republican Party will look like long term, because we saw, whether it's elected officials or just people that were voting that talk about liberty and freedom, completely flip on that this year. I mean, 60% of registered Republicans that were polled supported mask mandates, right? So, I mean, how is the party as a whole going to change? And, I mean, a lot of people right now are calling for a third party, which we don't support from a strategic perspective for the most part. Yeah. But just kind of address your thoughts on that.
Well, let's break that down, and y'all probably couldn't hear most of what Trey was saying, but the question is, what's the Republican Party going to look like? Oh, they could?
They heard it, yeah.
Oh.
I got a mic.
Oh, you're mic'd.
We're professional.
Wow, we are moving up in our quality for our very last Front Porch Live. We finally fixed our mics and got this thing working. See ya. No, listen, we'll find another platform. We will do Front Porch Lives in the future, even if Facebook bans me by the end of the night or tomorrow. So yeah, I think, I mean, first, the Republican Party is going to look like what we make it look like. I mean, it's no different than anything else. I mean, it's no different than, what is your church going to look like over the next year? Depends on what you make it look like. It depends on what the people in that church decide to do, and what your leadership in your church decides to do. So it's up to us. That's why I'm not for abandoning or starting a third party yet, because I just think it's not strategically smart. Now, I may change my mind on that. I mean, look, if there was ever a circumstance where that started to make sense, the stars are lining up where that could happen. And some of my friends are for that, and they may convince me. So, but right now, no, I think it's much more strategic to get behind people like Kristi Noem and Ron DeSantis and take over the party with that kind of leadership, and bring in a wave of legislators and congressmen that share those values and will fight for that. And part of the reason I think it'd be such a strategic failure is what you just mentioned, the fact that if 60% are for the mask mandates, well, if you go start a third party and you say, we're not going to do COVID fascism with the third party, and 60% of people are for it, I mean, unless you got all of the other 40% to come with you into the third party, which is not going to happen. Many of them will stay in the Republican Party. You're just going to split the vote and give it to the Democrats. It's just not strategically possible. Now, it might be tactically possible in an individual race. So you may be in an area where that makes sense, where you've got a really obvious rhino of a Republican, and it's an 80% Republican district, and there's no way a Democrat's going to win it, and so somehow you're able to come in with a third party and potentially beat that person. That would be an exception to the rule, but I don't think we look to third party as the solution right now. I think we have to look to a revitalization of the principles and simply knowing them ourselves and being strategic about how we channel this righteous anger everybody's got. If we don't channel this righteous anger, more violence is coming. I mean, it's going to happen. That's the nature of man. If you don't have the salt and light and the balming effect of religion and morality, and then you don't have the outlets that produces for people to be engaged and vent and get change, to actually get effective change in their locality or their state, then you're going to have more violence, because people are not going to put up with this. They're not going to live like this. Americans, they may have gone along with this mask mandate and staying at home for a while en masse, but I'm telling you, there's a large chunk of folks out there, they just aren't going to do it anymore. They're done. And if we don't change the laws and give them righteous ways to participate, you can expect more of the bad stuff. All right, what else?
You're on Gab.com.
Oh, I am on Gab.com.
Yes, and I think that's going to be a good one.
I am now. Does that mean I can gab?
You are the gabber.
I am the gabber. I'm not the gipper, though we like the gipper. I have a son named after the gipper. He's not named the gipper, but he's named Reagan.
Look for Rick Green.
Rhett's over there going, what's the gipper?
I have no idea.
We will be watching, reading Ronald Reagan's book, Where's the Rest of Me? And we'll be watching, what's the name of the movie? It's when he's the Notre Dame football player. He plays George Gipp. And oh, come on, somebody help me. Am I the only one? Nobody. Okay. All right. Getting too far off track. Anyway, Gab.com. Apparently, I am now on Gab.com, and that may be the place. Can you stream there? Can you do this?
I don't know yet, but
Okay.
it's just a really good platform. They're exploding, and they're separate. They don't have anything to do with Google or...
Okay, good. So that's going to be part of the challenge, is finding these social media platforms that can't be shut down by Google and everybody else. And Kara's saying that Gab is one of those. So if it's...
Look under your name, Rick Green, and it's also at Constitution Coach.
Oh,
One word.
you have both of those?
So it's your name, Rick Green. I think they can search for you.
Search for either Rick Green or at Constitution Coach, and it's Gab.com. So let's start flooding that.
There's not an app to put on your phone. It is only
Oh,
computer-based.
bummer. It's only...
Oh, did you? I don't think they're not on.
We really don't know what we're talking about.
On your computer.
Hey,
Do it on your
real
computer.
quick before Reagan.
You can definitely do it on your computer, though. Gab.com.
Before Reagan's question, a lot of people are asking if the front sight classes are still on for the spring.
Yes. Front sight classes are still on. Our constitutional defense courses needed now more than ever. I'm always wanting you to come go with us, but I'm telling you, you need to come in February, because we don't know what's going to happen. I mean, that's what are we at? They got 4 days to register for?
A little over a week.
Little over a week. Okay, so you got a week to register for the February 7th or February 11th dates. Daniel Horowitz will be out there with us. You'll get to meet him if you come on the February 7th one. And listen, you better learn how to defend yourself and your family. This is going to get ugly in a lot of ways. And not only that, you need the fellowship. I mean, come out and have a good time with us. You need the fellowship. You need the opportunity to strategize and talk about what we can do back home. And you need hope. You need to be around people that you realize. You'll look around that room with 300-400 people in there and go, these people are like me. They think like me. It's a great time. I'm telling you, it is whatever you got to do. Drive, fly, however you got to get there, walk, I don't care. Get there. It's only, $100, $99 if you want to do the 3-day class, and a background check for $50. So $149. Am I right on that? I'm always using the wrong number. So that's a tenth of the cost. It's normally $1,050 to do that 3-day class, or $2,000 to do the 4-day class. And for us, it's only $99 or $199, because we're patriots, and we're going to keep using that word, patriots, because patriot means someone that loves their country. And that's us. We're patriots. And the guy that owns it likes us because we're patriots. So that's why we get the big.
Do you think, assuming the social fabric of our nation is the same in 4 years, that Ted Cruz would stand a chance as a Republican president because he was like the senator that we all rallied behind a couple days ago, being the one to object. He kind of stood out in that light. So do you think he's somebody that we could rally around?
Yeah,
and keep up the same
Sure.
fight and grit that Trump did?
Yeah, I mean, I would think Cruz would be one of those leaders. I didn't mean to leave him out when I was talking about Nome and DeSantis, but the only thing I would say about Cruz is that, number one, we desperately need him in the Senate, but also it's almost like in this environment we need a new product. You know what I'm saying? Someone that isn't yet nationally known that can be introduced to the nation in the right way. And so I think Kristi Noem and Ron DeSantis have that opportunity. Noem even more than DeSantis, because he's gotten a ton of national press over the COVID crackdown things and the fact that he hasn't done what the media wanted him. So obviously a ton of negative press. But at the same time, it's made him a champion with our people. So that's part of why I lean towards them. And also it's just having a governor run typically is better because they have experience as an executive and all of those reasons. But I'm a huge Cruz fan. He's a friend. I think he's fantastic. I think he would be a fantastic president. And so, yeah, and I'm assuming he probably will. I mean, he hasn't told me that, but I'm sure he's planning to run. And, man, that moment when he stood up and objected was just magic. I mean, that was, if you were watching, whenever the guy from Arizona said to Pence, yes, we have 60 House members objecting, and then Vice President Pence read the rule, and he followed the 1887 law. So he followed the 1887 law, which I think is unconstitutional, but he was doing, what many thought he should do, and he thought he should do, and it is a fair, respectable, intellectual decision. Anyway, when Pence said, "Is there a senator that objects?" and Ted Cruz stood up, I'm telling you, it was like I wanted to hear some Top Gun music. Dun, 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 dun. I mean, it was just awesome.
Will you run for president in 2024?
Absolutely not. That is easy to answer.
Are you on Rumble?
Yeah, we're on Rumble. I forgot to mention that. Rumble, MeWe, Parler, and now Gab.com. And y'all suggest things too. Let us know. Put it in there or email us. If there's a platform that's taken off or that you think is easier to use, and I mean we'll jump on all of them, and then try to post our stuff on all of them until the cream rises to the top and something becomes the go-to outlet for conservatives. Yeah, I got buddies telling me they're deleting their Twitter accounts. They're done. People are taking a principled stance, and it's a decision everybody's got to make. And I think what Levin did was smart. He led up to it for a month and said we're done at midnight on December 31st. He shut down his Facebook account, and now he's getting off Twitter as well. And so we will end up doing the same thing, whether they ban us or we jump off at some point. But we've got to make sure we can still reach out to you and help you stay informed and connect. I mean, I just think that's going to be a critical piece for winning this movement being successful and us winning our nation. Is we got to be able to communicate. If you can't communicate, then you can't win a battle like this. So we'll use whatever tools we can.
And then literally, if they don't see you post or they don't see a Sunday evening Facebook live, they know we're banned because you can't even post. If you're done, you're done.
Yeah, if I'm not posting at all, then they banned me. I mean, if I go a day or two without posting, then that's probably what's happening. And certainly if you don't see a Front Porch Live, because we'll be out here. Trust me, this fire will be burning, and we will be sitting out here talking about the issues of the day. And we hope that you're able to join us, whether it's on Facebook or somewhere else. I'm hearing a few people say that President Trump did give a speech tonight. Did he or did he not?
None of the major news outlets have said anything about it. So
Okay,
I don't know what
it may be just his speech from the other day.
Yeah.
That Newsmax is replaying. I don't know. By the way, if you want to see any, I've been on Epic Times and NTD and Just the News and Newsmax and all of those a lot this week. If you want to see some of those interviews, we emailed out some of them a few days ago, and then we'll probably try to email out links again on Monday or so. But that's been interesting to say the least. Not a lot of sleep, but a lot of interviews. What else?
Do you want to comment at all on possible people to run against Governor Abbott here in Texas? Quite a few people have suggested names. in the chat.
Well, I'll tell you who I would like to see run against Governor Abbott is Alan West. I think he would be our best and strongest candidate. Who else is being suggested?
West is the one that here.
Oh,
Texas.
okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So that's what most people on there were suggesting?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think he would have the momentum. I think he's got the experience. The downside is he moved to Texas just a couple of years ago, and they'll talk about that, and they'll throw that at him. But the guy's more of a patriot and very much like a Crockett and others that came to Texas for freedom and gave their lives for us at the Alamo to do exactly that. So I think he'd be great. I mean, I think he'd be effective too.
Do you have any thoughts on Biederman's Texit resolution?
I haven't seen it.
I don't think it's an accurate representation of it.
Oh, it's not? Yeah. He's pushing something.
Yeah, I haven't seen that.
Do you have any other people that have stood out standing for liberty? Any other, like, people are asking about?
Well, listen, I should point out a few people, because like I said, I watched every one of the speeches Wednesday, and I had to because at about 1:30, I think it was right after Jim Jordan, Lauren Boebert got up, and she's the one that's one of our Constitution Live folks, and the Colorado gal that gave a great speech, and I was on some TV show, and I said I really wish, because I just listened to Adam Schiff speak, and I said I really wish the whole nation could just sit down and watch every speech from both sides. I wish the members of Congress would just listen to both speeches from both sides. They're very good. I mean, I enjoyed listening to at that point. This was before the mob came in, and they were very good speeches. And it was a great opportunity to say this is how decisions should be made. Listen to all the evidence and make a reasoned, discerning decision. And so I was like, I wish everybody would just watch and then decide how they're going to vote, including obviously those senators and congressmen. Just watch all the speeches. So then all the riots happened, and everything went crazy, and when they finally came back together that evening, I was like, okay, I'm going to take my own medicine, and I'm going to watch every single speech. So I watched all of them on the debate on Arizona, and then I watched all of them on the debate for Pennsylvania. And there were some champions, man, I'm telling you. I think one of the best speeches was Matt Gaetz from Florida. He nailed it. I mean, it was fantastic. There was several from Mike Kelly from Pennsylvania was outstanding. The several Texans did fantastic. Brian Babin did fantastic. There was, in fact, there was a congressman from somebody on here. Mike can tell me what his name is. He's a Texas congressman. I don't know if he's a freshman or not. From the Panhandle, from like Lubbock. He was Lubbock, something else, and he gave a great speech. I'd never heard of him, and I was like, who is this guy? So there were definitely some champions. Cruz's speech was fantastic. Josh Hawley's was fantastic. And when I say their speech was fantastic, it's not just giving a good speech. I mean their logic, their rationale, their reasons as they laid out the case for why this was important for people in America to trust their elections. That regardless of how people ended up voting at the end of all of this, that just having your day in Congress or your day in court and getting to hear it was important. And I thought they laid that out really well. I thought Andy Biggs did fantastic. Trying to think who else. Obviously disappointed in the senators that changed their decision after the riots and the violence, because I think there were 12 or 13 initially that were going to object, and then it only ended up being 6 against Arizona and 7 against Pennsylvania. So they let emotion make their decision and fear instead of principles. I mean, if you're a member of Congress, your vote should not change based on something like that. I loved the fact that they came back into the House and back into the Senate that night. That within 4 hours they were back in their chambers. So I thought that was great. I thought them saying, "Hey, we're not going to be intimidated, and we're going to do the people's business." I loved that, even though it was Democrats saying it and Mike Pence saying it and Republic. I mean, that's okay. That was a good stand to take. Back it up with your vote. When you say that, then it's not enough to just stand there. It's cast the same vote you were going to cast before that happened. Don't be intimidated. And shout out to Pat Fallon and a few of those other Texas congressmen that stood guard at one of the doors with the Capitol Police and kept the House was never breached, apparently, only the Senate. So all the pictures of those absolute morons hanging from the rafters and sitting in the seat and all that in the Senate, those are all in the Senate. They're not in the House. I'm pretty sure about that.
Yeah, major shout out to Fallon. That was awesome.
Yeah,
that was awesome.
Yeah,
Super cool.
Fallon, your stock went up big time in the minds of all Texans.
Yeah.
You want to ask everybody to put in the chat if they have anybody at a local or state level that's standing for these liberties.
Yes, please
for us to know
do.
about.
Put it
Comment
in the
there.
chat right now so that the rest of us know. If you've got a local hero, a congressman, a city council member, a county commissioner that is standing up, a sheriff that is standing up for truth and saying no to all the COVID fascism and saying let businesses open and that sort of thing, put them in here because we'd love to talk about them and give them their credit and hopefully get other people to model what they're doing.
A lot of people are just asking for lists of places to move, people that are worth supporting. You kind of addressed the ones that you like that have impressed you lately, but do you want to talk at all again about the moving idea?
Well, I think you are going to have to decide where you want to make your stand, and it may be a different state, or it may just be a different county in your state. I mean, we're talking about moving to a different county in our state, and so I can't yet say here's the places you should go, because I think that data we're still collecting that data. We're still trying to figure out for sure where some heroes are, so that we're not starting from scratch when we get there. But that's part of what we're trying to find is where are some places that have had the leadership with the wherewithal to say no to the mob, literally the COVID mob that has done far more damage than the mob at the Capitol did. Far more damage. The Fauci mob has caused more deaths and more economic damage and all of those things. So, yeah, I'm getting a lot of text people saying, hey, I saw your email that you're going to go live, but I'm off Facebook now, so where else can I get it? So what we will do, too, if you'll let your friends and family know if they were wanting to see this or as you share it out, we'll upload this video of the live, even though it's not live anymore, to those other platforms tonight.
Quite a few people are talking about how there doesn't seem to be any organization that has a cohesive list of things to be doing right now in terms of moving forward. You mentioned that Horowitz has a list, and then will we be putting out anything like that?
We should.
Yeah.
So we'll work on that, and I would definitely follow Daniel Horowitz right now. I think he's got a lot of wisdom in the things he's proposing. He does tend to be a little more pessimistic than I am, but he's been in the trenches, a long time. He's a young guy, but he's been in a lot of the big fights, and I think God really has given him a gift of discernment and wisdom. And so, I would definitely read every article he puts out. If you're not on the Blaze email list, just get on their email list, and that way, they send like once or twice a day, they send out a list of their articles that have been released in the last 10 hours or so. And he's got some really good ones on this topic of what to do locally and what to push for in the legislature. So we'll make that a priority to have some step-by-steps that folks can do.
You've talked about this a couple of times in other lives that people are asking if we can't trust the election process, what's the point of trying to go back in and change it up?
Yeah, I mean, I would have to say that you have to rebuild the trust in the election process, and we do that by changing the laws at the state level. And even if we get to the 2022 elections and in your state they haven't made those corrections, you still vote and you still try to get an honest outcome of the election. The worst thing you can do, you are giving in to the other side if you just unilaterally disarm and just say, forget it, I'm going home. So we have to rebuild that trust. I get that. Right now, we don't trust the outcome in some of these states. I mean, there's always been cheating. There has always been some who have a Machiavellian view that the end justifies the means and win at all costs and all that. And that goes back to what we've been talking about. The less biblical salt and light you have, the more you're going to have people willing to cheat because they don't believe in right and wrong. They don't believe there's a God. They don't believe that it's moral relativism. So I don't care if you're on the right or the left. If you're conservative or liberal, we got a lot of atheist conservatives that would probably agree with that. That would say, hey, yeah, there's no right or wrong. Let's do it. Let's win at all costs. Or libertarians, certainly, that tend to lean in that direction as well. So this is all coming back to the same basic idea, If you lose morality, you lose liberty. So we got to restore that faith in the election process. But
So Apple did put out a statement that they're banning Parler. They're
Wow.
saying that due to threats of violence and whatnot, that they're not. They said they always support diverse viewpoints, but that this is too far. That Parler has not taken the right steps.
yeah.
Combating that.
Yep, that will be the Rostock fire excuse. It's all about preventing another fire. That's going to be the mantra for the next 10 years. They will shut down speech, shut down your ability to do things, and it's all going to be in response to what happened Wednesday. So, yeah, that's fun. That might mean, I was it Rush or Mark Levin that was saying this will be my last Apple phone, last iPhone that I have.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, saying that's going to be hard, guys. It's going to be really hard because I'm on a Mac. Y'all are on Macs. We all have
I think we
iPhones.
got like 4 Macs out here. So,
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I think we need to see Elon Musk now that he is the richest
That's
person.
right.
Yes.
That's right.
We need to
man.
see him
Yes.
start a telecommunications company.
In
Oh.
Texas.
Yeah.
In Texas. Yes, Elon, since you're here, absolutely. He probably will. In fact, his computers will probably float. And you won't even have to touch them. You'll just think about what you want to be typed, and it'll be that's going to be the musket. Hey Elon, you owe me some sort of trademark on that. That's going to be the Elon Musk computer. Will be called the musket.
That was pretty good.
That was pretty good. I deserve some props for that. Yeah. Wait, that wasn't a dad joke. It was sort of a dad joke, but a funny dad joke. Okay, good.
Do you want to talk for a second about going back and looking at the Founding Fathers and how they used every single legal process possible before they finally took up arms in terms of exhausting everything? And I know that a lot of us feel that we've exhausted everything, but we
Yeah.
actually haven't. There's still a lot, convention of states, local elections that we've just given up on and we haven't done anything. There's a lot that we can still do before we get to that point.
I think that's a great point, Trey. That's there is often a rush to violence or a rush to the battlefield, the physical battlefield, because it's easier. It feels easier in the beginning, right? Plus, it's also just allows you to vent, and we forget that there are tons of tools at our fingertips. And I mean, this debate took place in from really 1764 forward, but especially 1770 to 1775. There were a lot of people that were ready to declare independence and willing to fight and all that after the Boston Massacre. And so, I mean, you have to recognize that even then they were exhausting every peaceable means possible. I want to repeat something Mark Meckler said on his live Wednesday night. For those of you that think that revolution is glorious, that a physical civil war is somehow going to be glorious and wonderful and end in wonderful freedom and all that stuff, you're kidding yourself. You're not a student of history. It usually ends in tyranny. The good guys don't usually win. It's ugly. It's awful. And ours was the aberration. Ours was the unique example in history. But even then it was ugly. Even then it was awful. And at the time, so I just I hope we're not enamored with that part of the American Revolution. And we should be enamored with the courage and with the ideas that were put in place as a result of that courage. That's the stuff we're trying to revive. I've always said they gave everything for us. They died so that we could live freedom. They died so we wouldn't have to fight in that way for our freedom. They gave us the tools in the Constitution to defend and assert our freedoms peaceably. So we need to be using that first, and that could mean years of that, and losing for years before it would make sense to have an actual civil war or revolution with arms. I mean, I was trying to think of the timeline. I mean, really, if you think about it, from the Intolerable Acts and the Stamp Act and the all of those things. I mean, it was a good decade of them trying to find a peaceable way to resolve things before it broke out in actual war. And even then, don't forget, after it broke out, it was 7, almost 8 years of fighting before they finally won, and another year before they signed a treaty. But I mean, it was a long time. So just get ready for that, and realize we have so much at our fingertips. I mean, no one should be calling for any kind of armed rebellion or any of that junk until you can show me that you have knocked on every door of every person in your congressional district, or at least House district, and asked them to get out and vote, right? I mean, use the peaceable means at your fingertips. If you haven't hosted a Constitution class in your home, at your church, online, like 40 times, then don't tell me it's time to go take up arms. I mean, there's so many things we can do that will peaceably bring about what we're wanting. Yeah, we need to be cognizant of that. We need to be talking about those things. But that's also why we always say, look, these are the right outlets. Let's do this so that people have something to do with their energy that will actually matter and that can actually bring us back to a place of freedom without having the loss of life that would come from a physical war. So I don't know if that answers your question or not.
No, it does. Somebody, you don't have to address this if you don't want to. Somebody earlier asked if you were a pacifist based on the way that you're worded. But so I'm just clarify, it's not that there is never a time.
Right.
It's just that we want, I think the way that you put it earlier with it not being glorious is a great point, because we tend to sometimes romanticize it. Even
Exactly.
With our film and our TV. And there's a beautiful nature to courage and liberty in many ways, but man, it is a bad point to be at.
No, I'll say the same thing about that I said about these Republicans that said you can never, ever, ever reject electors from a state, no matter how unconstitutional they are, right? You can't ever say never, right? And you also can't say that violence is never the answer. That's not a accurate statement. There is a time. I mean, if a gang rolled up in our yard right now, I can promise you, us 4 boys that are sitting right here are going to put some violence on them and stop them before they get to our ladies inside. And frankly, if we failed, our ladies would put some violence on them using the weaponry that's readily available around here in our home. Anyway, no, we're all for. I mean, you need to be able to use force defensively, though. See, that was the whole thing about the Revolutionary War, was that they had been taught by the pastors that you do not go on offense. You don't attack if you haven't been attacked, that you must respond, but only if fired upon. And that's why those famous words from Captain Parker, don't fire unless fired upon. But if they mean to have war, let it begin here. So absolutely we're not pacifist, but we do believe in just war theory. We do believe in the biblical command to only respond in defense. And so, yeah, I hope that answers that question.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think every veteran we've ever kind of asked that question of, they've all said it is not glorious.
Right.
I mean, it is not, whether it's friends, family members.
Yeah.
That I think a lot of people, they need to be disillusioned when it comes to that.
Yep, no doubt. And I would argue for our people to watch the videos from the Capitol Wednesday. Watch the ugly ones, not just the ones where they're walking around looking at paintings. Watch the ones where the girl gets shot. Watch the ones where, I mean, this broke my heart. They're breaking windows, not just with crowbars and metal pipes, with the end of an American flag pole. Think of the symbolism there. Watch those videos. Watch the police officers that are struggling to even breathe because they're being so squished between the mob on all sides, and also watch the police officers, especially the ones with kind of the deer in the headlight look, because what it felt like to me, if I could have read their minds, was absolute shock that we're being attacked by this group because we're part of this group. And they're even having those conversations. They're saying, hey, we're the ones that defend the police and have been with you guys. And that's why the police are like, then why are you doing what you're doing? And not wanting to have to fight back. And it was just surreal. I mean, but if you watch the worst of those videos from Wednesday, first of all, you'll see that it was bad. It was ugly. But it'll hopefully dissuade, it'll dispel this idea of glorious revolution, because the only ones that were celebrating were the ones that liked chaos. And that's not the America I want to live in. The ones that were really celebrating, most of the Trump supporters, when I looked at their faces in those videos, they knew what was happening was wrong. You could see it in their eyes. And they felt, I mean, it looked to me like they were, now I'm not talking about the ones outside that were, just waving flags and all of that, and even the ones that had gone up on the steps. But the ones that were climbing the rafters and certainly the ones that had broken stuff and went into the Capitol, the ones that were enjoying that, those weren't our people. I don't care what label they had. They weren't our people. And that's not the America I want to be in. And so I hope it'll make you realize this is not how we want to fight this fight. But we've been conditioned to think that's how you get change. So I understand after 7 months of letting the other side do it with impunity, which is why we've been screaming from the rooftops since Minneapolis. If you don't stop this, we're going to lose the country. You cannot let bad behavior go on and expect to not get more of it from all sides. You might have a strong-willed child that tends to act out a lot more, and then a sweet little, much more pleaser child. And if you just let the one that act out all the time, that pleaser child's going to follow sooner or later and say, well, they keep getting the cookies whenever they throw that fit, so maybe that's the only way I get the cookie. That's the nature of man. That's how we learn.
Now, it wasn't interesting to see a couple of those videos of people trying to get out once they realized what was happening.
Yeah, I think there were some that had. I think that might have been some of the ones that had been let in by the police. So yeah, there were people trying to get out of there and trying to get out of the mess. So that's why I said from the beginning. I realize there's people that got caught up in it. We had friends that, like Michelle Bachman, that was in the prayer room, didn't know that any of this obviously was going on. She was praying in the prayer room and she couldn't get out of the Capitol. She got swept up with the congressman actually, and ended up where they got locked down in the offices. But yeah,
is there a possibility that you see, or a pathway for peaceful secession in the future if things continue and we can't fix it, which we should pour all of our efforts into preserving this republic? But a lot of people are just asking, okay, what about peaceful secession? Is there a pathway to that?
Not that I know of. I don't. The reason there's not a pathway to that is because if you had a few states that said we're going to have a compact and we're going to leave the Union and essentially the Confederacy all over again, this time for hopefully something better than slavery. I mean, obviously it would be, right? I mean, I understand what everybody's saying here. So if you had some kind of an effort like that, do you really think that those liberal states that are paying for their bad policy with our money are going to let us just go? No way. No way. I mean, there's just no such thing. I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to think through history. I don't know of a nation that split without bloodshed. Well, what you're trying to do... Yeah, you're not trying to secede as much as you are just saying be a true federal republic. Like let the states be different, and then let people vote with their feet. And then within the states, especially your bigger states, let the counties be different, and people can vote with their feet. I mean, that's just freedom, right? I mean, that's the idea that you're going to let local people. We give lip service to that. It's time for us to actually live that out in our policy.
Yeah, just to kind of, I might have taken people off track, so just to bring them back to what we're actually saying, explain the difference between what we're trying to do with sanctuary counties, why that's our first option, rather than just jumping straight to secession. Yeah,
we're saying with a sanctuary county, you're not trying to leave the state or leave the union or have your own nation. Though that wouldn't. No, I'm kidding. That sounds kind of nice right now, but again, that's like this illusion. Guess what? Sinful people are going to be there because we're going to be there. So, I mean, that's another thing everybody has to realize is, we definitely have a divide in our country. But no matter how you split it up or where you go for your safe haven, there's going to be people there, and that means you're going to have depravity, and you're going to have sin nature, and just look at history. At some point, even those people are going to have disagreements. So there is no nirvana. There is no utopia. There's no perfect place. Now, we can make places far better by just looking at what works and what doesn't work and get that implemented. And so what we're proposing is just do that on the local level in a county while keeping your membership, if you will, in the state and the nation, so you're still part of whatever state you're in, and for the most part the same as the rest of the state, but you have leadership that protects you if the state does something like what it did this year with the COVID crackdowns. If it says we're going to violate your constitutional rights and prevent you from opening your business or going to school or going to work or whatever, that the leadership in that county would say, not here. The same way that sanctuary counties have refused to implement gun laws that would be unconstitutional, or frankly sanctuary cities that protected illegal immigrants. I think that was the wrong policy and all of that, but boy, they sure let them get away with it. So the model's there.
Can you clarify, though, we're not suggesting like nullification.
Right.
Suggesting the actual enforcement of the Constitution.
Yeah, the difference between this and what some people call nullification is that a state tries to, an entire state says to the federal government, we're nullifying whatever laws that they pass, and or even a handful of states say those laws are nullified, and we will not allow you to enforce them here, and we're not going to enforce them here. What we're talking about is the idea that your county resources and your state resources cannot be used to enforce those kind of things. That's a very different animal, and it also leads the way for a convention of states where you have a constitutional nullification of whatever those laws may be. Because when you have those local counties or those states that are doing it the right way, people see the benefit of that, and you're able to sell that idea to enough states where then you come together and you actually overrule the federal government if you haven't been able to convince them to change. So this idea obviously breaks down or comes to a head at the point where in that sanctuary county, if that local sheriff says, you're not shutting down the businesses in my county over something that is clearly not a problem, but you've got it trumped up in your head that it's a problem. But then the state sends in their officers, or the federal government sends in their officers to try to shut down that bar or that restaurant or whatever it is. At that point, then you have an issue. Now, will the sheriff and the sheriff's deputies basically stand guard at that business and say, no, you're not going to do it? Will the citizens of that? I mean, that's frankly what we would love to see more of in terms of peaceful civil disobedience. Is all those people just locking arms? This is the civil rights mode, right? This is the MLK way of doing things. Is you peacefully lock arms in front of that business and say, you're going to have to remove me. I'm not fighting you, but if you want to stop this business, you're going to have to remove me. That type of thing is what needs to take place. I mean, we have people that are in a lot of pain right now, and not many are coming to their aid and coming alongside them. We're letting their businesses die, and so I'm looking for ways to find businesses that are willing to do peaceful civil disobedience, and then we need to all get behind them and help them. But the county doing the county gives you that kind of safe haven, that sanctuary for that. And look, I mean, think about the enforcement of COVID fascism. What incentive does a federal agency have to come in and try to do that in that county, or even the state? Now, if the state wants to have some sort of, if you leave the county and they have a roadblock and you have to take a COVID test to be able to leave the county, I mean, it could get that bad. They might do that. But as long as we got a county where within that county you have freedom, then, I mean, it might end up being that bad. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to having a legal structure to resist this, right?
A legal and political structure, not a mob.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. David had a funny comment. He said, just trying to lighten things up. How about John Dutton for president? Kevin Costner's character.
John Dutton. Yeah.
Well, and that also just goes back to the heart of man being the real issue. That no matter what kind of governmental structure you have, there's going to be people that corrupt it.
That's right. That's right. That's why there is no utopia. Let's not buy into those ideas. That's a socialist agenda where they try to convince people everything will be perfect if we just do this. A republic is the worst form of government other than every other one. They're all bad in some way, shape, or form because they're made up of human beings. So we do the best we can with what we got where we are.
You live streaming tomorrow as well?
If I'm still on Facebook, maybe. Yeah. I mean, if I may not. Let's hold that.
A lot of people tune in around that time automatically, so we probably will.
Oh, okay. So we could at least do a short one.
Yeah.
Maybe we just do music. Y'all have some songs ready.
You're being asked to run against Cornyn.
Man, I wish I had, actually. I wish somebody had. We've got him for 6 years, guys. 6 years. You talk about, I mean, he doesn't even know how the Constitution works. He really believed this. He made a big public statement about this. He thought that if the objectors, if the members of Congress rejected the electors from those states and we went under 270 and the 12th Amendment kicked in for a contingent election, he actually thought it would go over to the House and to a 435 vote, and Nancy Pelosi would get to pick who won. He did not know how the 12th Amendment worked and that they had to vote by state over in the House. That's a basic. I mean, I know 99% of people don't know, but most attorneys know that. Certainly most attorney generals, and he was an attorney general in Texas, know that. And surely a United States senator would know that. Most of the people that take our Constitution class know that. I think we cover that. Surely we do. If we don't, we're going to cover it in the future. Anyway, I mean, it's very clear in the 25th Amendment, and it's been done. I mean, we had that in 1824. So anyway, yeah, 6 years from now, somebody's going to run against him.
What do you think Trump's going to do after all this?
Yeah, boy, that's the question of the day, isn't it? Does Trump start a media empire, a whole new communication system, right? Does he come back and run in 1824? I keep trying to get in that DeLorean, man. I keep trying to travel back in time. Anyway, does he run again in 2024? Does he do the 1776 Commission and try to restore American history? I mean, that's why they're trying to destroy him. They know that he has the ability to do all those things, and the wherewithal and the following. And so I promise you, he took a hit on Wednesday for sure. So thanks a lot to the mob. But there's been many times I thought they had him cornered, and he comes back stronger than before. So I'm not, you guys know this from watching our stuff. We're not, none of us have ever thought Trump was the savior and all that stuff that people say. I saw a bunch of that on Wednesday night. This is what happens when a man becomes the savior instead of God, or a man becomes the savior instead of a country. And they tried to replace the American flag with the Trump flag and all that stuff. We've never been like that. We are very cynical about politicians always. They always let you down no matter what. But we also know that God raises up people to accomplish things. And there's seasons, and maybe Trump's done. I don't know. I don't think so. I'd be surprised. This movement has had him as the figurehead for too long. So no matter how hard he built it, let's face it. I don't think they're going to accomplish destroying him. Whether or not he could come back and win, I just don't know.
Do you think his business career is over? His reputation now?
I mean, that's what they want. They're certainly trying to make it that way, where he can't even do business. But yeah, I think I can't remember who said this the other night, but I think it's true. We do tend to overreact to things like this that are so big, and we deserves a big reaction. But I don't think it's possible to see whether he's written off or not. I don't think so. I think he'll be back.
Rhett was just showing me an article and a statement from the CEO of Parler, basically talking about how Amazon is going to pull them down from their servers, and the CEO is basically saying, we've prepared for this and we'll be down for about a week, but we're going to rebuild from scratch. Basically saying Amazon, Apple, and all of them are trying to shut them down, but they're going to essentially try to get where they're independent. So at least they're fighting back.
Yeah.
That's really just the thing to point out is the alternatives are not just taking this lane on the ground.
That's so important, man. I mean, because it would be easier, right, to just say, okay, we're going into however many years of darkness, I'm going to buckle down and just survive it, instead of fighting back. And so if Parler's doing that, and if these, I think it's going to be real important to watch what Josh Hawley and Ted Cruz do. I was a little disappointed to see Cruz already saying, I've never liked Donald Trump's rhetoric, and I thought it was too harsh and all that. I mean, I've said that same thing, don't get me wrong, but at this moment where they're trying to get everybody to denounce him, I mean, of course he said things coarser than we've liked and rude and all that, but he's our Churchill. I mean, that's him. We've liked that transparency and that realness about him. But I do think watch what they do I can't see them giving in to the mob, and that will be a pretty good indicator of whether we have political leaders that are going to fight back. And hopefully these folks. I mean, I know guys like Mark Levin and Dan Bongino, and you throwing sparks in my hair.
I don't want this to fall on you.
I know they're going to fight back. I'm a Rush baby. I mean, I grew up, but from the time I started thinking about politics in college and law school, a lot of my thinking was greatly influenced by Rush, and he is a one of a kind. And I don't, but I was listening to him yesterday, and thinking about how guys like him. I mean, here he is fighting cancer and having a really tough time right now, and yet he still gets up and fights for us. And I just don't think I think that part of our side is not going to give up. Rush and Mark Levin and Bongino and even a lot of the people that are kind of the newer front line, Charlie Kirk and Rob McCoy and those kind of folks. I think we've got a good cadre, Candace Owens, good cadre of warriors that know how to win the propaganda war, but they're all in kind of that media realm, not in the elected official realm. And that's where I think we're weakest, is members of the elected official realm that are really good at winning that propaganda war. So
I think the CEO of Parler should run for something.
He's
With-
good where he's at.
yeah, we need him where he is. I guess that's right. And Bongino, I guess, is a small owner of that.
I didn't realize he was an owner.
Yeah, he's got a stake in that. But anyway, so yeah, I mean, I think everybody should be praying for Rush. We need him. We need him for a few more years, and he's really having a tough go of it right now. And I don't know of anybody that can replace him.
Michael asked about the chances of them packing the court in the next few years.
Yeah, good question. The pack in the court thing is coming. That's really a big part of what this was all about, and I don't see how we stop them without a convention of states. And I know all you anti-convention people are thinking I'm just always coming back to that, but if you've got a better plan, tell me what it is. Because, all it takes is a majority vote in the House and the Senate and the president signing off on it. So it's a done deal at this point. If question is how fast do they do it? And I have not had a chance to talk to some of the folks that would hopefully be part of drafting an amendment to prevent it, but that may be the reason to quickly have a convention of states. Now, granted, the chances of ratifying an amendment with 38 states, whenever we only really have about 31 of those states that are Republican, it may be difficult. But I do think there's a good chance of some blue states getting on board with a convention just simply to solidify power at the state level. Again, it's not a policy solution. It's a process solution. And so if we can shift power back from the feds to the states, it benefits California and Massachusetts as much as it does Texas. And I guarantee you a lot of those legislators are looking at the November 3rd results, and they're going, you know what? If we have another election or two like that, then the conservatives are going to control Congress, and they're going to get the White House back in 2024, and they're going to have the court. And so if we can't make law through the court like we've done for the last 50 years, we want to be our own state and do what we want to do. So, I mean, if I was in a blue state, I'd be thinking, I like this convention of states idea. Let's shift power back from the federal government to the states. That's good for everybody. And it certainly helps with our split in the country right now. So the packing of the court, that's the only solution I know of. I mean,
Do you want to talk for a second just about how we can push back even before like the laws are changed, for example, when it comes to a lot of the media companies, not just social media platforms, but actual mainstream media? We've got to fight with our dollars.
Yeah.
In terms of if you have family members that still have TV subscriptions, all that kind of good stuff, that's just continually funding them. Move that money to Daily Wire, move it to somebody else that's doing good work.
yeah, it's a great, I mean, what you just said. You're mic'd, right?
I think.
Yeah, I mean, I don't need to repeat that. That's exactly what you said is exactly right. So I mean, absolutely. In fact, you want to do something. Everybody's saying, what can I do? What can I do? Here's one thing you can do tonight is give up at least one of your subscriptions to your cable channel or Netflix or Amazon Prime, Wall Street Journal, New York Times. Give up at least one of those and go over and do the highest subscription possible at Daily Wire. Because what you're doing is not only are you shifting your own finances and helping Daily Wire to put out more movies and more content that's good stuff, but you're also going to get better content. You're going to get some good stuff when you start paying attention to what's going on over at Daily Wire. So yeah, I mean that's an easy, that needs to go on our action item list.
I mean, everybody should just cancel Netflix anyway.
Yeah, and just and frankly, I mean, we're funding the left. I mean, that's you got it. It's hard. I get it. There's, I get it. There's shows that you want to watch on. I mean, who doesn't want to watch The Mandalorian on Disney Plus, right? I mean, if you don't want to watch The Mandalorian, then you are not a good American. No.
Stuff Disney's put out on Star Wars.
I mean, that's it. That's the only thing that Disney's put out on Star Wars that's good. But no, I get it. I mean, that's but at some point we've got to decide especially if you have a limited amount you can spend. I mean, if you can do all those subscriptions, then it comes down to what are you supporting overall. Netflix is one that I think has just gotten so bad with the stuff that they're paying for and putting out, and we're, if we're paying that $9.95 or whatever it is every month so that we can watch Hell on Wheels, which you can't watch anymore on Netflix, then we're part of the problem. Honestly, I mean, it's hard for me. I didn't cancel mine until 3 months ago? It was whenever the Cuties thing came out was finally the final straw for me. So I was late to the game. A lot of our friends canceled them whenever they did the deal with the Obamas, and then you had that Brian, what's his name? He's a radical leftist sexual agenda guy, and they gave him like $400 million to make.
Was that him?
Who?
Was he the guy who did the X-Men movies?
No, it was a different one. He's just as bad. Anyway, I don't know. Bottom line is those things all happened this last year, and so I just finally gave up on Netflix. But I do have Amazon Prime, and so if Amazon's doing all this stuff, but how do you live without Amazon?
They're not as bad.
They're not. Yeah.
But, another thing to think about too is, I mean, Daily Wire is even getting into film and TV production.
No, they are. Daily
So
Wire's
who
got
knows?
they've got a movie coming out when next week.
It's premiering January. I've seen the 14th and the 15th on several different articles. So
Sometime next week.
One of those 2 days. Yeah. In about
So
a week.
Daily Wire has a new movie coming out next week. They've got fantastic shows. I mean, Michael Knowles, Andrew Klavan.
They just did a phenomenal
Ben Shapiro,
docuseries on the Apollo missions.
Matt Walsh. Oh, that's the one that's already out. Yeah, so the Apollo 11 series that they did. I haven't seen it yet, but Reagan said it's absolutely incredible.
It's phenomenal. For anybody questioning the moon landing, that thing will answer all of your questions.
And what's it? Do you know what it's called?
It's called Apollo 11. What we saw.
What we
it's
saw.
Narrated
Apollo
by
11.
Bill Whittle.
Yeah, and Bill Whittle's a great guy. He actually went through my Constitution class with John Voight many years ago. Do you remember that, Trey? You were there. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we met Bill there, and then of course good friends with Jeremy and all the guys at Daily Wire. Anyway, Daily Wire is definitely one to support, and Candace Owens is. When she gets back from maternity leave, is going to be doing her show with them.
And they have PragerU's entire library now, so you
Yeah.
can watch all of their PragerU videos.
PragerU videos. Another thing to do is watch Dennis Prager every Thursday night on his Fireside Chat. I'm telling you, it's just wisdom. If you want to get some good wisdom, watch Dennis Prager. And then they also have their book club thing that Michael Knowles interviews somebody on some of the great books, and we try to watch those every chance we get. So yeah, good stuff over there. I mean, that's the kind of stuff. I mean, I know people don't like to hear this simple stuff, but it is. It's the blocking and tackling. The Hail Mary pass doesn't work most of the time. We got to do this regular stuff of educating ourselves, making better decisions with our dollars, voting with our dollars. At some point, there's got to be a line in the sand on a company not supporting them anymore when they go too far, and that's going to be hard the next few years because all of these major companies have bought into the Black Lives Matter stuff. They're funding the leftist movement, and now they're going to be canceling people from our side. So, man, we're going to have to make some tough decisions.
And going to have to be willing to put our money where our mouth is in terms
Yeah.
of organizations that we support.
Oh,
we
good
we
point.
know who to support for watches.
Yes.
Love them.
Eggert watches. If you don't have an Eggert watch, put a link to that video. You shared it to me. It is an amazing video, and they just released it last night. I remember when they released their video supporting the police back in June when all this stuff started. It was so good. I got online and bought like 4 watches from them. I mean, I said that's amazing. And so apparently they did a video last night that is about all of this stuff this week, and it is powerful. Powerful? Did I just say that? Powerful. And share it. It's going to be in the stream right now. And go buy a watch from them.
Gaborm Studios is another.
They're
one.
great watches too. I don't have mine on. You got yours on? No. Yours is kind of a dress watch, but do you have yours on? This is a bad advertisement. Sorry, guys.
It's fancy. We don't want to mess it up on the.
They'll have to sponsor next time, and we'll actually show them.
I mean, we do need to think about it, though, right? 70 million Americans,
75
at least, 75 voted for Trump. I mean, the amount of money that is
that's a
spent
good
right
point.
there. I mean, in theory, right? If we could organize it well enough, no company could shut us down.
Yeah.
In theory, right?
Yeah.
If we could actually organize.
That is a
who
great
we-
point. I mean, even if the other side digs in, right, and then they will have half the country's business, and whoever's, they're going to have their list, right? They're making their list of all of us that supported Trump, and they're going to use it to purge us in any way they can. Why aren't we making our list and saying we're not going to do illegal things and the kind of things they're doing? We're just going to we're going to vote with our dollars. We're going to use it. There's an app called Second Vote, and it kind of does that, but it's based more on values. Like if a company supports a radical agenda, then they let you know. So that you choose, say Lowe's over Home Depot or vice versa, or whichever. I don't even remember which one was doing what, but that type of thing. So Second Vote's a pretty good tool for that in terms of values. But that'd be a great thing. I hope somebody on Trump's team does that. They basically create. This is where deplorables shop, and that's where we all go.
Yeah.
I don't want to poke the bear too much with this, but when we talk about the 75 million people that voted for Trump, do you think that is a large enough base, or are we getting to the point where that is a large enough base to start a third party with that base, and it being substantial enough to not split Republicans down the middle to where we're no longer effective in winning elections? But do you think that base alone would do that?
I think there's a real chance that a lot of people are going to try to do that because that number's so big, because Trump's the type of personality that could help lead a third party like Ross Perot could have done if he had stayed in 30 years ago. But at some point, everybody has to go, okay, so if we take those 75 million and we move them into third party, why is that better than taking those 75 million and activating them within the Republican Party? Like, why create a new vehicle that doesn't necessarily run better and may not run as well because the current vehicle has all the apparatus in place and everything else? So that's
I guess the better question is, how do we then get rid of the squishy Republicans who are actually Democrats?
That's my argument, that we should be able to take those. I think it's 85 million, honestly. But take those 80 million people and organize so that we can, in fact, elect good Republicans that are going to be patriots and that are going to stand for the right thing. So maybe there is a new declaration of principles from the Trump movement that everybody can agree, not everybody, but that most of us could agree on, right? And
yeah, because that's probably the next step, is how do you better distinguish between...
Right, because you got the Republican Party platform that's supposed to do that, but all of the candidates, either ignore it or they say I'm for it and then they go vote unlike it. Where if you had real clear, like, these 10 things, this is what the movement's going to accomplish in the next 10 years, and you candidates either sign on or they don't. They play. It's kind of like the 1994 contract with America. That's really what you're talking about. This is good. It'd be like the 94 contract with America that all Republican congressmen signed on to, and that's when we won the majority. And they voted on everything in that contract for America in the first 100 days. And I don't remember how much of it actually got passed and all that, but it'd be that type of thing. But you're making this contract with the 75 million Trump people and saying, if I want your support to vote for me for city council or for Congress or whatever it is, I'm signing the pledge that I'm with you on those 10 things.
I think part of people's holdup, though, is that you'll still have people signing off on core values and principles, but that's not enough to figure out if there's someone who's going to fold under pressure, like we've seen.
No,
so
you
many
wouldn't
Republicans.
know until the first session they're in,
Yeah.
where now your agenda comes to a vote. How do they vote on it? Right? I mean, that's the whole idea is you got to have your contract with America, or with the deplorable contract, whatever it's going to be, right? And then then when that legislative session meets and you've got these 3 election integrity issues, and those come up for a vote, if that person didn't vote with you, then you go after them in the next primary.
Somebody just asked about these links, and if you get booted from Facebook, where can we find all these? You have all these lives on a YouTube channel. I think it's called PA Accounts, if I'm not correct. We'll post the link to our YouTube channel where all these lives are in the chat.
I'll also upload this live to those channels. That's what I've been doing after a live, or I try to if there's time. Okie dokie, folks. What else? It is getting late, and I'm hungry. So, any other questions in there you think we ought to
Just closing thoughts.
address? Okay, closing thoughts. As Churchill said, never, ever, 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 ever give up. Even now. And start thinking strategically, tactically. Start getting together with other people that are like-minded. Get a Constitution class going in your home. Get a biblical citizenship class going at your church. We've seen it happen over the last year and a half, 2 years. Those classes become the place where you end up with a group that can run somebody for city council or school board or state legislature, or do this contract and hold state officials accountable. I mean, frankly, that's what we ought to do, is the contract, and take it right now to legislators and say, you're either with us or against us. We can't vote you out right now, but we want you voting with us if you expect us to be with you in the next election. And put them in the hot seat, But we got to be real clear what those issues are, and we also got to realize the system is messy, and you're not going to get everything. And so, anyway, stay in the fight, I guess, is my main take-home message. But fight smart. Let's not be foolish like we were on Wednesday. And let's start thinking strategically and tactically. Come see us in February 7th or 11th, and you will get some great training and have some great fellowship. And pray every day. We just all need to be committing to at least 5 or 10 minutes in prayer for the country, for the leaders. Pray that the plans of the enemy will be thwarted. Pray that even with them having the speakership, the Senate, and the White House, that they'll start fighting amongst themselves, so much so that they can't get anything done. And that's a very, very real possibility, because the far left of the Democrat Party and the far, far left of the Democrat Party, which are the only two parts left, are going to be fighting with each other over which agenda is going to get passed. And so once we're no longer the target, which is kind of part of why they're doing the impeachment thing and keeping Trump as the target, but once that's all kind of out of the way in another month, they're going to turn on each other. Their attention will be on each other in that agenda. So pray that God will use that. Read some Psalms, read some of that Old Testament stuff, and the way David prayed about God turning their plans on them and the things that they plan for us. And that's the kind of stuff we need to be praying for. I mean, some hard stuff. Thank y'all, man. Thanks for being patriots. Thanks for joining us tonight, man. We had a great crowd tonight. And share this right now. As soon as I turn it off, share it, and let's see if I'm still on Facebook tomorrow. All right, God bless you guys. Oh, duty is ours, results are God's. Forgot to say that. That's the attitude. Remember that. Just keep doing your duty, but have peace in knowing the results are God's. We can have joy even in the dark days that are ahead.